the greatest inventions in the modern world. There's the light bulb, the internet, and autocorrect. No matter who you are, you can rely on autocorrect to save you from making embarrassing typos every day. At least if you can get around the fact that it still thinks ducking is a word. In an article published this year by Elizabeth Wise in USA Today, an engineer at Amazon made a similar small typo. However, the difference was this one little typo on Amazon's supercode produced a massive internet slowdown that cost the company over $160 million in the span of just 4 hours. This time, there was no autocorrect. Furthermore, in an article published last year by David Bory for W. Burr News, recently an employee at the New England compound, which is a pharmaceutical manufacturer, didn't clean the lab properly, and now 76 people are dead and 700 have contracted meningitis. 10 years ago, when I played Little League Baseball, I remember putting minimal effort into games and practices just because I knew everyone would get the same participation award at the end of the year. Now, these examples all have one thing in common. What did we come to live in a world where these types of typos, these common errors, this do-it-your-best attitude, or just good enough became acceptable? At some point, we've stopped valuing perfection. And now, these are the type of results that we get. You see, I think that we should seek perfection all the time and reject that good enough attitude. According to an article published by Kristen Korosek for Fortune magazine, 100 people die every day due to vehicular crashes. Think about that for a second. 100 people dying every day, and yet we still can't convince ourselves to pay perfect 100% attention behind the wheel. If we take a closer look at perfectionism, we can come up with the following definition. Perfectionism is an attitude developed in the smaller things, like paying attention on the road, and then apply it to a larger idea, like being a perfect driver. So basically, if you can't get the little things right, you're going to fail when it really matters. And when you're driving a car, it really matters. A car traveling at 55 miles an hour travels the length of America's football field in just under 4.5 seconds, which, coincidentally, is the same amount of time it takes the average person to check a text message, according to Kenneth Burke of TextRequest.com. And here's the thing. I'm tired of accepting 99% as just good enough. I mean, being less than perfect actually has real consequences. Think about it. If the makers of our credit cards were only 99.9% effective, over 1 million cards in circulation today would have the wrong information on the magnetic strip at the back. Or if the Webster's Dictionary was only 99.9% accurate, it would contain over 470 misspelled words. Or if our doctors were only 99.9% correct, 4 million prescriptions would be delivered each year to the wrong people. Or 4 million incorrect prescriptions would be delivered each year. Or even worse, 11 babies would be given to the wrong parents every single day in the United States. The reality is that the United States government just crashed a $1.4 billion aircraft because the maintenance crew only did 99% of their job. Someone forgot to check a sensor, according to a 2017 article by Ryan Brown for CNN. The reality is that 16 people are now dead, and 180 have now been injured. The reality is that 34 million cars are being recalled because producers of a car airbag sold a product that they thought was, good enough, as seen in a 2015 article by Danielle Avery for the New York Times. The reality is that medical errors are now the third leading cause of death in America, according to an article published last year by Marshall Allen for NPR. 250,000 people die each year because somebody who probably thought they were doing their job good enough messed up. So it comes down to this. Doing your best just isn't good enough anymore. So how do we change? We have to seek perfection and settle for nothing less. Now, I know how this sounds. All our lives we've been told things like, perfection's impossible, and if you try to reach perfection, you're just lowering your self-esteem and you'll set you up for failure. But therein lies the irony. See, today we're all so afraid of that word failure. But the truth is, we need to fail. Failure is a natural stepping stone towards perfection. But at some point, we became so afraid of that idea of failure and that idea of perfection, we started adopting that good enough attitude. I mean, do you really think failure is going to ruin you? Or is that just the easy answer that gives us slow websites, scary healthcare, and dangerous roads? We all know that imperfection exists all around us. Nothing and nobody is perfect. But at some point, because it was too difficult or too painful, we decided to dismiss that natural ability to deal with failure and replace it with a lower acceptance level, that good enough. And now we're all forced to sit back and just accept this attitude and the results that come with it. So even with all that said, people still say, did the medical staff, the maintenance crew, the engineer, they tried their best, and isn't that just good enough? Well, no, and especially not in these examples. Yeah, trying to be perfect is so stressful, right? And I can't tell you how many presentations we've heard in this class that stress is bad for us, isn't it? Well, maybe, but to say that seeking perfection is too stressful, saying that exercise is too exhausting. In both cases, if you want the results, you've got to put in the work. So truthfully, saying that seeking perfection is too stressful is just an excuse to be lazy. And see, if we continue to cultivate this culture where people are scared to fail, or nobody's told that they will fail, that nobody's going to reach their potential either, failure and loss are necessary for success. It's the acceptance of failure that's not. Michelangelo is credited with saying that the greatest danger for most of us is not that we aim too high and we miss it, but it's too low and we do reach it. 500 years later, Steve Jobs told graduating Stanford students 4 words: stay hungry, stay foolish. Failure should be a motivating force, not some type of pathetic excuse to give up. So, I have a solution. Instead of defining perfectionism as an inability to fail, why don't we try giving it a new definition? Why don't we try defining perfectionism as a willingness to do what is difficult to achieve what is right? You see, then we can agree that failure is a good thing in our quest for perfection. And when we seek perfection without fear of failure, just think about what we can accomplish. Take NBA superstar Stephen Curry, for example. According to basketballreference.com, he hit 77 three-point shots in a row. Think about that. The guy was able to accurately deliver a 9.5-inch ball through an 18-inch rim that suspended 10 feet in the air to nearly 24 feet away almost 80 times without failure. Or like the computer programmers at the aerospace giant Lockheed Martin, who have now written a program that contains 420,000 lines of flawless code to control every aspect of igniting 4 million pounds of rocket fuel and putting a 120-ton spaceship in orbit, referenced in a 2011 article by Tarandeep Singh of LeadHunter.com. Or maybe, like the researchers at the Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, Missouri, who have now developed a device that, according to an article published last year in Smithsonian by Daniel Lewis, can complete human genome encoding in just 26 hours. So this device is able to diagnose genetic diseases in babies and newborns sooner, giving doctors an opportunity to start treatments earlier and potentially save babies' lives. See, that's what happens when we seek perfection. So maybe we should be more like the professional athlete, or we should be more like that tireless programmer, or like that passionate researcher. Then we can stop fearing failure, and we can stop living in a world filled with the consequences of good.
Any questions real quick?
Exactly. Did you put 1 minute for 7 minutes?
7.5, yeah. Thanks, man.
Has everyone signed it? Who's the one person that didn't?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Oh, shoot.